Hello, my name is Kevin Cervantes. I have created a workout program to help in strengthening your body and to help better condition a person's body. It could be either with an athlete or it could be even just an individual just trying to improve their own body. We can begin some of these exercises with a very simple warm-up, and we can definitely get the blood flow going in the body. With beginning with our warm-ups, we can start off by doing jogging on the treadmill. This is a simple exercise to get the blood flowing in the body. It's one that is highly recommended not only by myself but many other athletes. We can begin by doing this exercise for 2 minutes. For this exercise, you can definitely begin by keeping it at a moderate speed, maybe around a 3.5, a 3.8. You don't want to go too excessive on the amount of speed that you're going on when conducting just a normal jogging exercise. And as said in the previous video, you can definitely complete this exercise within 2 minutes. Definitely get the blood flowing, including with all the other exercises that we're going to be doing throughout this video. In our second warm-up exercise, what we are going to be doing is what is called high knees in place. You can kind of use this as a similar exercise as we just did with the jogging on a treadmill, but this will not only help with your balance, but it'll also help with regulation of blood flow and get it going and to get your body a little bit warm. So for this exercise, I'm going to be giving an example on how to properly execute this by slowly going through it. It's going to be a little bit easier for people to understand, for people who have never done this exercise before, and even to some people who have done it but are executing it incorrectly. So for the high knees in place, what we're going to want to initially start doing is we're going to want to have our body balanced and stationary with the ground. And in this motion, we're going to raise our right leg up and to where our knee is parallel or in line with our hips, and bring our knee back down. And we're going to do the same thing with our opposing knee, is bringing our left knee up to our hips in level and back down. So as you can see in the side view, we're going to raise this up here as it's in line with my hips and back down. And as the high knees in place in full motion is just by going up like that and back in that repeated motion. We're going to be doing this for 2 full minutes, and then we're going to be moving on to our second general warm-up exercise. For our final general warm-up exercise, what we're going to be doing is jumping jacks. We're going to be doing these for 2 full minutes, and this exercise is very common to many people, whether you're a small age to an adult to even an elderly adult. Many people have done this exercise. It's a great fundamental exercise for people to get their blood flow going, to get their heart rate up, and to not only prepare your body but also cause a little bit of a dynamic stretch for the body itself. So I'll be explaining on how to properly execute these jumping jacks, and this is how I can best explain on how to execute jumping jacks in general. So for this exercise, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to have our feet shoulder width apart with our body, and we're going to start with our hands right here on our sides, closest to our hips, and we're going to have a full extension to where our feet are further than shoulder width apart. We're also going to be raising our hands above our body to where they're above our head, but in full extension above and all the way back down. And same thing with our legs. We're gonna jump out and to where they're not fully to as apart as shown here. We're gonna want to bring them to where you're closed, and you're gonna bring them a little bit about shoulder width apart, with also the repeated motion of bringing your arms above your head. So as fully shown, I can give an example: up and up. And we're gonna repeat this for just 2 minutes. Try your best not to go as fast as possible. Try your best to just stay in a general moderate speed. Same thing with the jogging, the same thing with the high knees. We do not want to have our excessive body movement to where we're going too rapidly, because we're gonna not only tire ourselves out, but it's also going to be not so beneficial for our main exercises that we're going to be doing later on throughout this video. So after this, we're going to be giving an explanation on our specific warm-ups, and as said in the previous exercise, we're going to be doing 2 full minutes of the jumping jacks. For our first specific warm-up exercise, what we are going to be doing is what is called a lunge with a overhand stretch. Some people can consider this as a static movement sort of warm-up exercise, but in all reality, it's a dynamic stretch exercise to not only help with the stretch in your lower body, but also give you a stretch in your upper body as well. So for this exercise, I'm going to be giving an example on how to execute this exercise for some of those people who have not properly been executing this, or for the people who don't know how to do this exercise. This is a perfect demonstration on how to execute this exercise in the best way to not only get the best body look for yourself or the body stretch, but also to help you understand what areas we're actually focusing on in this exercise. So to understand what this exercise is all about, an overhand lunge stretch is the stretch of your hand coming over and basically essentially reaching over as if you're gonna reach over for something on the opposing side. Now with the lunge portion, we're just basically having our right leg or even the left leg, just depending on which one we're going to be starting off with, having come over in a extended look, and we're going to bring our other knee down and having our right leg be at a right angle and not causing the left leg to touch the ground. If we cause this left leg to touch the ground, there's really no point in really executing the exercise in proper form. So we're going to have to want to cause the balance within our core to hold ourselves up and have the knee not touch the ground. Now for the stretch, with the leg being the one that is at extension and having the right angle, with the leg that is not trying to touch the ground, we're going to use that hand, so the opposing hand of the foot that is furthest from you, have it stretch over while you're coming down, as seen like that. And then we're going to do the same thing with the opposing leg. So the left leg will come out, and we're going to have our knee come down with the stretch of our right arm, and while not causing our right knee to touch the ground. We're going to be doing this for 1 full minute, and then we're going to be moving on to our second specific warm-up exercise. For our second specific warm-up exercise, what we're going to be doing is what is called arm circles. Arm circles are a great dynamic moving exercise because you're definitely getting your arms in a flowing motion to get them prepared for what we're going to be doing in our later exercises, which is our main exercises of this entire program. Now for arm circles, we need to understand what exactly we're doing for arm circles, because in this exercise in general, some people can just do them willy-nilly and not really understand what to truly do when executing this exercise. So for arm circles, I'm going to be giving an example on how to execute this one. So by having our arms fully extended in a parallel line with the ground, we're going to be having them in full extension outwards. And we're going to be having the arms go forward in a circular motion, and then we're also going to be doing them backwards in a circular motion. The one thing we don't want to do when doing this exercise is we don't want to be having our upper body or even our core of our body be moving forward or backward when doing this exercise. We're going to be wanting to have a tight core, and then having our arms in full extension, and then having the stretch of the shoulders and upper body in general to have the rotation and then backwards rotation. We're going to be doing a frontal rotation for 30 seconds and a backward rotation for arm circles for 30 more seconds to cause arm circles in general to be 1 full minute. So for this exercise, as said, full extension, circular motion for the first 30 seconds, and then backward motion for the last 30 seconds while keeping a balanced and tight core. Now we're going to be moving on to our third exercise. For our third exercise, what we are going to be doing is what is called A-skips. Now, A-skips are a little bit more of a really great extension exercise and flexion exercise for some people if you really truly think about it. Now, for this exercise, we're going to be doing it for 1 full minute. And I'll be giving an explanation on how to execute this exercise as to the best of my ability, because this is one of my favorite exercises that I enjoy doing when it comes to warming up for programs as such that I have selected for today. Now for A-skips, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be imagining yourself just skipping. So some people can imagine yourself skipping as skip like that, just in general. Now for A-skips, you're going to be wanting to have more of a expressed movement when it comes to coming back up. So imagine yourself like you're going to like jump. Some people can consider it like Mario, but as I like to think about it, you want to imagine yourself, you're going to want to jump up like you're going to get on a chair. So you're going to want to jump up, up, and up. Now with your knee, you're going to want to bring these up to your hips in line with them and back down. And immediately, once that foot hits the ground, you're going to want to bring the other knee up in line with your hips. So as I said, you're going to want to do this up, 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 and up. Doing this for 1 full minute, and we're going to be moving on to our final specific warm-up exercise. For our final specific warm-up exercise, we're going to be doing shuffles. Shuffles are a great exercise. Many athletes do it, many gymnasts do it, many people around the world do it, whether you're an elementary to an adult. And some people can understand how to do shuffles, but in this variation, it's a little bit different than having yourself on a big field. So being in a stationary area, what you can do is, for shuffles, we're going to be wanting to have our feet in a shoulder width apart, slightly further than shoulder width apart for this exercise. Now, you can understand the midline of your body comes straight down. Now, from this midline, you're going to want to bring your foot on that midline and then bringing your opposing foot out to full extension, like this. And then shuffle back with the other foot coming to the midline again and coming back out. So shuffles would be like this. But now, how am I executing this exercise wrongly? Some people can understand that when doing shuffles, the one thing you do not want to do is having your legs in a full extension to where they are backwards. What you're going to want to do is have a slight bend in your knee when you're doing these exercises. Imagine yourself like jumping. So you're going to want to come up, and as you can see, when I'm right here, I'm having my knees still slightly bent, not keeping them at full extension, keeping them slightly bent so I can still have a little bit of a bounce to myself, so that way I can prepare myself to bounce back to that midline point and keeping my center of gravity here in this center and doing this over again. So for shuffles, what we're going to do is we're going to do this exercise for 1 full minute, and then now that all the warm-up exercises are over, we can move on to the main event and do the main exercises. Moving on to our main exercises, what we're going to be doing is Olympic lifts. Now, Olympic lifts, there's different variations, but in this specificity, I'm doing a clean, an Olympic lift clean. Now, for our first exercise, what we're going to be doing is an Olympic lift power clean. So with this first exercise being a power clean, our first variation is just a normal power clean. It's just a normal gripped power clean, having our hands in a pronated position. And it's a exercise that many people really don't truly understand, which is why I'm going to give a basic explanation on how to execute this exercise in general. So what we're going to need is just a normal bar in general. And for this bar, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to understand where the midpoint of our body and this bar has to be. So with this exercise, what we're going to do is on the bar, there's these little little grips on the bar in general. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to put our feet shoulder width apart, having the bar coming with our body down, and with our feet, you can either have them facing in a parallel with each other formation, or you can have them in a slightly angled. Preferably, having them slightly angled is not only better for yourself when it comes to bringing them up for the power clean in general. Now, for this exercise, we're going to want to bring our hands in line with our heels, like relatively next to each other, if you can imagine them. Now, bringing our hands in a pronated position to where our palm is facing towards our body. So we're going to want to come down with our hands coming in this position itself. So now, what do I do here? What we're going to do is have our thumbs wrap around to not only have yourself in a safer position when it comes to bringing this bar up. Now, having the bar as it's touching the ground, we're going to want to come up, and as the bar is right here about to pass your knees, rub the bar as if it's up against your knees like this. When the bar is almost to the point where it's going to reach your hips, you're going to want to jump and shrug your shoulders at the same time. So as in a full motion, we're going to come up and bring this up and jump and shrug. But now, when at this position where we're all the way down, we want to have our chest up and our head up. So having our chest up as if you're in a Superman position, to where you're bringing your chest out, and having your head up is what is in the safest motion for completing this exercise. So, chest up, head up, coming up, and shrug. And imagine your elbows are gonna come out like this relatively. Having your elbows come up to where it is coming up, and you're gonna bring your elbows all the way up like this to not only help you have a better clean in general. So you do not want to overextend your back in this position. You're going to want to have your hands come up like this, chest up, come up, bring it up, jump, shrug like this, and then having your legs at a bend and then coming to full extension like this is what is best. And then you can release back down and repeat this motion. We're going to be doing this for 10 repetitions. We're going to be doing this exercise for 2 full sets. And then we're going to be moving on to our second variation of Olympic lift cleans. For our second variation of power lift cleans, what we're going to be doing is a power lift clean split. Now, in our first exercise, we did just a normal power clean. We brought it with our hands in the proper motion, having them in a normal pronated position, our chest up, our chin up, bringing the bar to rub against our thigh with a shrug and a jump at the same time, and bringing the bar. You do not want to bring the bar out in this way. You want to bring the bar as close to you as possible like this, and having our elbows come up with it. Now, to a power split is a little bit different. And the split is because our feet, when landing, is going to be what's different. So, as shown, we're going to be doing a power lift clean, right? We're going to want to come down here, have our body in line with each other, our shoulders, our knees, and the balls of our feet in line. Come down, and we're going to have the bar come up. And when I'm here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump and shrug. But when I land, I'm going to land like this, as where my front leg is at a right angle as shown in our specific warm-up with our lunge, almost in a lunge position. We're going to want to come like this and then come up to full extension. So, in a full motion of this exercise, what we're going to be doing is we're going to want to come down with the bar on the ground, come up, all the way up, jump, shrug, and that essentially is just the motion in general. But when we come right here, and we're going to come up essentially right here and jump, shrug, we're going to want to split like this and come up. Now for this exercise, we're doing 10 repetitions. We're doing this one for 2 sets, but it's 10 repetitions on each leg. So we're coming up 10 repetitions on the right leg, we're coming up 10 repetitions on the opposing leg. And after this, we're going to be moving on to our final variation of this exercise, and that is about it. For our final variation of the Olympic lifts cleans, what we're going to be doing is an Olympic lift pull. Now, what is an Olympic lift pull? An Olympic lift pull is a simple variation of an Olympic lift clean to not only give you a fundamental understanding of the exercise in general. So, a pull is essentially executed in this manner. Having our feet a little bit more than shoulder width apart, we're going to want to come down and have our pronated hands come down in line with our heels as if they are next to our heels. Now what we're going to do is we're going to want to come up with the bar, and we're going to bring the bar in line with our thighs and rub against them. And when we come up, you jump and shrug your shoulders up and just release back down and restart the motion all from the ground up. So here's an example of how I'm going to execute this exercise, which is an Olympic lift clean pull. For this exercise, I'm coming down, having my feet a little more than shoulder width apart, in line with my heels on the ground, and then coming up, coming in line and rubbing up against the thigh. And right here, I'm going to come up and just shrug it with your shoulders. So that way you can have the understanding of coming down and shrugging your shoulders up when completing this exercise. And you're gonna want to bring this all the way back down and do it all over again. Come back up, shrug, and come back down. For this exercise, we're going to be doing 3 sets for 10 repetitions. For our second exercise of our Olympic lift cleans, we're going to be doing hang cleans. Hang cleans are different than power cleans, essentially because of how we're starting off with this exercise. Now, for a hang clean, how do we start off with a hang clean? We're going to start off by having the bar off the ground. So the bar is essentially going to be like right here, around below your knees. Now, hand grip is always very important. As said in the first exercise of the power cleans, we're going to be having our hands almost in line or closely with our heels of our feet. Now having the body still with your chest out and up, being straight ahead, and our head being up. We do not want to have our chest down or our head down and buried in our chest. We want to have our head up and chest up. Now, as I said, hand grip, having our body up like this and being in line, shoulders, knees, balls of our feet, coming down, locking your shoulders almost to where they're locked down, but backwards, and coming down in line with each other, and beginning right here with our chest up and the bar above the ground. Now coming up, a normal hang clean is just starting from below the knee, coming up and shoulder shrug and jump at the same time, and coming up like this. We're going to be doing this one for 3 sets. We're going to be doing 10 repetitions, and we're going to be moving on to our second variation of these exercises. For our second variation of hang cleans, what we are going to be doing is what is called a hang clean, but in a snatch grip. Now, What is a snatch grip? A snatch grip essentially is having your hands at the widest that you can when being able to grab the bar in general. Having your feet a little more than shoulder width apart at the start. And keeping that same balance with your chest out, your head up, the balance with your shoulders, knees, and the balls of your feet before starting this exercise. Now, how do I do this exercise? Well, here's the solution. What we're going to do is we're going to have our feet a little more than shoulder width apart. We're going to have our hands in a pronated position to where our palms of our hands are facing towards our bodies. Now, having our hands come down and having at the furthest amount of motion that you can. For myself, I can essentially grab all the way to the bar. Is it safe for myself? No, I can definitely hurt myself. So having to a comfortable, but at a grip that is the widest for yourself. Being able to wrap your thumb underneath is what is safe for yourself. Having the bar come down and below the knee, having your chest up and your head up, and coming up and bringing the shoulders to a shrug and bringing the bar up. So it's a jump, shrug, and coming up like this and bringing it back down. And you restart the exercise by having it right here below the knee, chest up, head up, coming up, jump, shrug, and coming up like this. For this exercise, we're going to be doing 3 sets for 10 repetitions. And after this, we're going to be moving on to our final variation of hang cleans. For our final variation of hang cleans, what we're going to be doing is a little bit of a different variation, but it's a very great variation for the explosive movements in your lower body. Now, for this exercise, what it is called is a single leg hang clean. So the hang clean is going to be essentially the same. It is going to be at the start, pronated position with our palms facing our body. We're going to be bringing our hands relatively next to our heels, having our upper body, our shoulders in line with our knees and with the balls of our feet. With our chest, we're bringing it out and up. We're bringing our head up, not down. We're not bringing our chest down. We're bringing our head up and chest up. Keeping this alignment right here. Now, when doing this exercise, what's different is how you're starting off. You're starting off with a single leg. Just keeping the balance of your core being on one leg in general. So keeping the hang clean, what you can essentially do is you're going to want to have the starting position. You can start off with your 2 feet by grabbing the bar. Now, going with one leg, you're going to want to have one leg behind you, the other leg down. What you can do is have your knee in front like this with the bar. By keeping that balance with that back leg, you can essentially, when you're ready and you have your alignment, you can have your chest, your shoulders, your knees in line, which is just one knee that would be in line in this situation. So, having this alignment, coming down and bringing it below the knee, having our head up and our chest up. Want to come up and come up, and then right here we're going to jump with one leg. So jumping with one leg from here, up, jump, and you're going to want to bring your other leg back out so that way you can get that balance to lift the bar in general. I'll give one more example. So coming right here, lifting the leg, coming up, and bringing it up like this. So for the hang clean, we're doing this one for 2 sets. Now for the 2 sets, we're doing 10 repetitions on one leg and 10 repetitions on the other leg. And after this, we're moving on to our second modality. For this variation and for also this modality, we're going to be changing it up. So instead of doing an Olympic lift clean, we are doing lower body plyometrics. What is a lower body plyometric? We're going to be using body weight, and we're going to be doing exercises that specifically emphasize explosive movement in our legs. So the first exercise that we're going to be doing is what is called a box jump. Now, for this, I'm going to be giving an explanation and also an example of how to execute this exercise. So, what is a box jump? What we're going to be needing to do is we're going to be needing something with a hard surface. We do not want to have something that is flimsy or that is on wheels. We need something that is flat and that can stay stationary. So, in this example, we're going to be needing to do a bilateral box jump. Now, a bilateral box jump is where we're using both our legs to help explode us from the ground and to land onto the box itself. And we're going to be having to come up here and to catch ourselves and to have our legs in full extension and to safely bring ourselves down. So now for this exercise, giving it in a slow motion, I'll be giving an example. So, starting here, I'm going to be slightly of a distance away. Imagine yourself maybe a foot and a half away from the box jump in general, or the box itself. Now, having our feet, we could have them in a slightly angled position. And coming with our feet, hands by your sides, do not bring them down here. You want to have as much power as you can when coming up against the ground. So having them in a bent position with our hands by our side, coming down to a bent, and almost imagine yourself like you're gonna sit down. So you can sit down to the ground and explode up and onto the box itself. You're going to want to do this exercise for 3 sets for 10 repetitions. We're going to be moving on to the second variation of this program, and I'll be giving an explanation on how to properly execute this exercise. For our second variation, we're going to be doing a box jump, but this is going to be a little bit different from the first variation that we did. So for this lower body box jump, what we're going to be doing is what is called an alternating leg box jump. Now, what is an alternating leg box jump? This is essentially with only using one leg. So for this example, I'm going to be using my right leg. Having our left leg up above the air, we're going to want to have it come in a bent position with a feet position at shoulder width apart. Having our upper body with our chest up, essentially. Not going backwards and not going too forwards. You want to maybe have it a little bit to where you're slightly bent forward, but not too much. Now for this exercise, you're going to want to have one leg, as I said, come down in a bent position. And then you're going to want to explode up and have it land, have that same leg land on the box platform itself. So for this, having our leg come down and come up. And you essentially would want to have your leg come up above the bar and come all the way up here. And have a full extension and come back down. Then you're going to want to do the same thing with the opposing leg, where you come at full extension here and a bend, coming down. You're going to want to jump and land with that leg on the platform itself. You're going to want to do this for 2 sets, 10 repetitions each, and 10 repetitions meaning 1 of 10 for your left leg and 1 of 10 for your right leg. For our final variation of the lower body plyometrics with box jumps, we're going to be doing a single leg box jump. Now, you might think from our second variation, isn't this the same thing? Well, no, because we're only focusing on one leg for the 10 repetitions. So in all of the first set, we're going to be doing one leg, and then the second set, we're doing the other leg. Essentially, that is how this would go. Now, for this exercise, what am I going to be doing? You're going to want to start with your feet at shoulder width apart, with both feet. Now, at this position, you're going to bring whatever leg you're going to start off with. I would essentially start off with my left leg in this example. We're going to want to have to bring our leg in a bent position and have our hands closely together by our body, having our upper body in a slightly bent position to not only assist with the power coming from our leg, impacting the ground and coming up and impacting the box. So, having it bent and coming up we're going to want to come up and then land with the opposing leg and then emphasize on that leg in general. So now, as said, having our left leg bent, come down, hands closely together, body kind of bent over, not fully bent over and not fully backwards, kind of bent over, coming down, jumping up, and having our opposing leg hit the box and come to full extension, coming back down safely and repeating the same process, having it bent, coming up, impacting full extension. We're going to be doing our right leg for 10 sets, our left leg for 10 sets, and that would complete one full set. We're going to be doing 2 sets for 10 repetitions on each leg. After this, we're moving on to upper body plyometrics. And for upper body plyometrics, I'll be giving a little bit of an example, but after I do one more set of the upper body, lower body exercises for these 2 plyometrics exercises. For our second exercise in regards to our body of the lower body plyometrics, we're going to be doing squat jumps. Now, what is a squat jump? And how do I do a squat jump if I've never done it before? Well, I'll be giving an example on how to properly execute a squat jump. But we're going to be doing alternating squat jumps on this first variation. Now for the first variation, we're going to be doing 2 sets for 10 repetitions. Now, for alternating squat jumps, what we're going to want to do is have your feet at a little past shoulder width apart. We're going to want to begin by having our legs come at a bent position, not to where you're all the way fully bent, just slightly bent. And having our hands here by our sides. You can rest them here on your hips, with your forearms on your waist, essentially. But when completing this exercise, what we're going to want to do is have our body begin by having a bent position, then we're going to squat down. And when we're at the position where we feel like we're sitting, imagine yourself sitting on a chair, you're going to want to come up and jump and balance yourself on one leg when you come back up. And as it's alternating, you're going to want to come down and jump back up and use the opposing leg to land back on there. You're going to want to do this position back where it's almost shoulder width apart and complete doing this alternating leg for 2 sets and 10 repetitions. I'll give one more final example of how to execute this exercise. As shown, body is slightly bent forward, not fully bent forward and not fully bent backwards. Slightly bent forward like this, bringing your knees at a slightly bent position. Hands here by your sides, coming down, and as I'm coming all the way down here to where I'm sitting, explode back up and land on one leg. As I said, explode back up and land on the opposing leg. For this exercise, we're going to be doing 2 sets, 10 repetitions, meaning 10 repetitions on each leg, and then we're going to be moving on to our second variation. Our second variation of squat jumps, what we are going to be doing is what is called a bilateral squat jump. It's what is different from an alternate legged squat jump. So to give an explanation on what this exercise is what I will be doing, and then after I will be giving an example of how to properly execute this exercise. So in this exercise in general, what we're going to be doing is essentially we are going to have our hips and our feet in alignment, and we'd have a slight bend in our knees, having a slight tilt forward of our upper body to not only help with our balance, but to also help with our explosiveness from impacting the ground upwards. And now to have this exercise in full completion, what we'd want to do is essentially we'd want to have our chest up and our head up. So we want to be facing the wall or whatever it is that we're facing. Maybe it's a mirror or whatever the case is. As said, we want to do what is a squat. So a squat is just normally having our feet in a diagonal pointed position, Some people like to have them in a parallel with each other position. It's just to many people's comfortability. For myself, due to a what doctors had explained to me, it's easiest and the most comfortable for myself to have it in the diagonal position. So as said, I'm gonna have my feet in the diagonal position. I'm gonna have my hands here at my chest, and I'm gonna squat down. And as you can see, my chest and my head stay forward in alignment with the wall or whatever I'm looking at. So I'm gonna stay here, and as I come down, I want to stay down to a point where I'm actually sitting on a chair. And now when I'm here at this chair sitting position, I'm going to want to explode upwards. So as said, squat down and explode. And regain that balance again, squat down and explode. You're gonna want to do this as quickly as possible. So in this camera angle, I'm also gonna give an example. So as said, squat down and explode. And then regain your balance again, squat down and explode. You're gonna do this for a total of 3 sets. We're gonna be doing 10 repetitions, and then that will complete this variation of it. For our upper body plyometrics, which is our third modality, we're going to be using a medicine ball. And for this medicine ball, we're going to be doing throws, which are overhead throws. Now, for the first variation, we're going to be in a supine position. A supine position means you're going to be laying down on your back and on the ground. So, what is an overhand throw in general? So an overhand throw is essentially, we're going to be grabbing the ball, right? And we're going to be having our hands to where they are tightly underneath the ball. Not to where they're on the side, not to where they're above. You're going to want to have them underneath with a half pronated position. So where you are able to throw it. Now, when you're going to throw it, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to have your body right here and throw it forward. Just release all the energy you can and throw it to whatever wall you are going to use. Do not use a wall that is not a hard surface. So for example, we're using one that's a pretty decent surface for us to use in this example. So what am I going to be doing? So we're going to lay down. We're going to be down here in a position to where we are going to lay down. We're going to have the ball behind our head to where we can grab it. Have your legs essentially almost open so that way you don't hurt yourself on the way back. So, laying down, having the ball back here, grabbing the ball behind you here, and bringing the ball ahead of you and up toward the wall. Having your arms right here and throwing the ball as hard as you can that way. So as shown in a full example, we're going to stand here and lay here like this, and we're going to want to have the bar and the ball of our arms come up, grab it, and throw. And that would be one. And have the ball come back up, and you would grab it, and then you would be a second one, 1, 2, and have the ball come back up like this. Now in this exercise, we're going to be doing 10 repetitions, and we're going to be doing 3 sets. For our second variation, we're doing a standing overhand throw of the medicine ball. So now for this exercise, it's a little bit different because of our position and where we're going to be grabbing the ball. So the ball would initially start here on the ground. Having your arms in foot extension, bringing it down as hard and fast as possible that you can to have that explosive when you come back down. To give an example of how to execute this exercise is what I will be showing here at the current moment. So we're going to be needing a medicine ball. Do not try to get something that is too heavy for yourself that you cannot hold above your head at a comfortable position. Having your body in line with each other and having the medicine ball up here, bringing your feet more than shoulder width apart to have yourself better balance when coming down. So you can start off by having your feet slightly bent and coming your arms back and down. And you're going to bring it downwards as fast as possible, as hard as possible. And then we're gonna bring the ball back up. Grab it as fast as possible. 1, 2, and let it come down. We're gonna do this for 3 sets, 10 repetitions. And we're gonna be moving on to our third and final variation of upper body plyometrics. So for our final exercise when it comes to the medicine ball with the overhand throws, we are going to be doing a single arm supine overhand throw. Now, it's a little bit different from the first variation that we did. And here's why. This variation is a little bit on the lighter side because you're only using one arm. So if you're using, for example, maybe a 30-pound medicine ball, you might want to bump it down to maybe like a 20 or even a 15-pound medicine ball, just for your own safety. So we're gonna start off by having ourselves on a supine position. We're gonna be here on the ground, having the ball behind us. We're gonna be laying down, having our feet in the same position as the first variation, which is a little bit open for our safety especially. Having the ball behind us, we're gonna grab it with one hand underneath. You can use your second arm to assist you in balance. Imagine yourself like holding a basketball, having the ball underneath and the other hand in a steady for accuracy position. So having it like this, you're gonna have the ball behind you and you can release your other arm or your other hand from the ball once you feel comfortable and ready. And then on 3, 1, 2, 3, we're gonna bring the ball above and ahead of us to throw at the wall. So in a fast position, or in a fast example, this is what we're gonna do. We have the ball behind us, ready. Ready our position, 1, 2, 3. Like that, and then hit the wall. It's gonna come back down. And we're gonna have the ball ready to do another one. As such, 1, 2, 3. And then it's gonna come back that way. Now for this exercise, we're doing single arm. So we would do 10 repetitions with one arm, 10 repetitions with another arm. That would be 10 full repetitions and 1 full set. We're doing 2 sets, 10 repetitions on each arm, and we'll be moving on. So in our next exercise, we're going to be doing a chest pass. This is going to emphasize on the upper body plyometrics. And this is one of my personal favorite exercises. I use this on a day-to-day basis to get upper body strength when it comes to either in a, for example, boxing position or even just a passing position. If I'm playing basketball and just want to pass it to my teammates. This is a perfect exercise if you want to help in this. And this is why I selected this for this program. So what we're gonna be using is we're gonna be using a medicine ball. So we're gonna grab our medicine ball and we're gonna hold it. We're gonna have it at our chest. And we're gonna be using a bilateral chest pass. So bilateral chest pass, you're gonna have the ball here and we're gonna have our leg, which you could use your dominant leg but for my own example, I'm gonna explain one little detail. Having your dominant leg behind you, having the power be exerted backwards and then forward. With your dominant leg, you're having the power assist you in pushing it forward. So for this, to help emphasize in the upper body, we're gonna be having our feet next to each other, but in a little bit further than shoulder width apart position. So come down, grab your ball, have it at your chest, and bilateral, we're using both hands. So we're gonna do it right here and forward. Grabbing the ball again, up here, forward. And like this again, forward. We're gonna be doing this for 10 repetitions, 3 sets, and then we're gonna be moving on to a next exercise. After completing the bilateral chest exercise, we're gonna be doing alternating single arm chest passes. So for the chest passes, it's a little bit different with the alternating. We're going to grab our medicine ball in this example, right? And by imagine yourself in a basketball position once again, as holding the ball underneath and with your opposing hand on the side, so underneath and on the side, just so that the opposing hand is at a balance for yourself at the current moment, right? Having it right here, having your feet in a further than shoulder width apart position, having your legs slightly bent, and then releasing that assisting hand, only using one arm, and you're gonna release forward. You're not, try not to release upwards, release forward, let the power come this way, outwards. So right here, having it right here and forward. Right here and forward. You're gonna be doing alternating, so to help understand, we're gonna go right here, forward, grab, right here, forward, grab, alternating. So we're gonna be doing alternating chest passes on each arm. We're gonna be doing 10 repetitions for each arm. And we're doing 2 sets. So 10 and 10 would complete one set. We're gonna be moving on to our final variation of chest passes. For our single arm chest passes, this is our final variation for upper body plyometrics. This is gonna be an easy exercise for people to understand, because imagine yourself completing like the shuffle warm-up exercise, which is why it was selected in a specific warm-up. You're gonna want to have your feet in a little further than apart position. You're also gonna want to use a medicine ball in this situation. So, as said, shoulders, feet a little bit more than shoulder width apart. You're gonna want to grab your ball with whatever hand you're gonna start using. So I'm gonna be using my right hand for this first example. Having it underneath the ball, having your other arm as an assistant, and then release your hand from the assistant, and then release forward. So, to give a full example, the ball would be on the ground after it came back. So you go 1, 2, and then you're gonna release from here. It's gonna be down here, up and forward. Up and forward. And in this situation, we're gonna be using the ball to be an assistant. So as I said, the hand's gonna be an assistant. So it's gonna be right here. It's gonna be up, out, forward. And it's not gonna be pushing it. It's just gonna help stable it, and then you push it forward. So after this, we're gonna be doing another modality, and this would complete the variation of the single arm. We're gonna be doing 10 repetitions for this arm, 10 repetitions for the other arm. We're gonna be completing 2 full sets, and that would be it. And that would complete our upper body exercises. Okay, so now we're gonna be moving on to our second exercise of resistant sprint exercises. This one is going to be a little bit different from the first one. So our first exercise was dealing with a resistance band, but more on a sprint drill exercise. This one is more using the same resistance band, but we're going to be doing an exercise that is called what is called broad jumps. Now with broad jumps, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using this resistance band, and we're going to be having a partner assist us in this exercise in general. Now for this exercise, what we're going to do is we're going to have the resistance band be wrapped around our hips, and we're going to have our partner be holding on to the back part of the resistance band. So the back ends will be held by our partner. Now for ourselves as the athlete, what we'd be doing is, for this exercise, is more of a bilateral broad jump for a total of 10 yards. So for this exercise, what we'd be doing is we'd be having, as said, the resistance band behind our, or around our hips, and we'd be having our feet together, and we'd be having a slight bend in our knee with the alignment of our hips and our feet with a slight tilt of our upper body. Now, as an athlete, what we want to do is we want to have a explosive movement from the initial start of this exercise all the way up to until the final 10 yards of this exercise. So a broad jump is what is considered to be having your feet together, and you're going to be exploding. So you're going to have a bend in your feet as going downwards, and you're going to jump forwards. You're not going to be jumping upwards, you're going to be jumping forwards. as far as you can while having the resistance around your hips. So as said, resistance around your hips with your partner holding you back, and you're going to be jumping forward. Because you're going to be jumping forward, your partner's going to be helping you have that resistance while you're going backwards, trying to pull you back. But what you want to do is you're going to want to have as much power to push yourself as far forward as you can and continue jumping with both feet all the way to the final 10 yards. And your partner's going to be following you all the way to the end. For this exercise, we're going to be doing 3 sets for 10 repetitions. For the second variation of broad jumps with a resistance band, it's a little bit different from the first one. So instead of the first one, which is in the same way of using both feet, instead of landing with both feet, we're going to be landing with one foot. So we'd be landing on our left foot, and then we would regain our balance with both feet, and then jump again and jump on the opposing foot that we did not land on. This is what is considered alternate broad jumps. We have the resistance on our hips, and as said, for the first one, we want to have our alignment of our hips and our feet all together with a slight bend of our knee and a slight tilt of our upper body. You do not want to go too far backwards in this exercise. You have the resistance, but to pull yourself backwards with your upper body is something you don't want to do. So what we want to do in this exercise, as said, you're going to want to have a slight bend in your knees. You're going to want to have the alignment with your hips and your feet with a slight bend of your upper body. You're going to jump, so you're going to have that explosive movement with the resistance on your hips, so that's explosive, and then you'd be landing on your left foot for this example, and then after you land on your left foot and you have that balance, you regain your balance by placing your opposing foot, you jump again, and you land on your right foot. This would complete this exercise, and you'd be doing 2 sets for 10 repetitions. Our final variation of these broad jumps, what we'd be doing is a single-legged broad jump. Now, in the first one we did alternating, which is jumping, and then we'd be placing our one foot, and then we'd jump again and use the opposing foot to land on. With our with the other variation that we did, we jump and we land on both feet at the same time. Now with this one, we'd be jumping, and repeatedly throughout the 10 yards, we'd be landing on that same foot up until the final 10 yards. So as said, you'd want to have the alignment of your hips and your feet all together. The slight bend in your knees with a slight tilt of your upper body. Having the resistance of your partner is what's most important. Having a partner with you, having that resistance, and them holding you backwards is what's also important. So holding them back, and you're going to jump, and you're going to continuously jump on that same foot for the full 10 yards. So in this example, I'm using my left foot. So I'm going to have a slight bend. I'm ready to go, and having my partner holding me back. I'm going to jump and land on my left foot. Jump and land on my left foot again by placing my opposing foot at the jump, both together, while simultaneously landing on the left foot repeatedly for the full 10 yards. So for this exercise, we're going to be doing 2 full sets of 10 repetitions, and this would complete this entirety of the exercise. So for our first exercise, when it comes to agility training, we're going to be using a resistance band, and I'm going to be using the assistance of one of my friends, Adrian, to help with this exercise. Now for this agility training, we're going to be doing a sprint exercise, and for this exercise, what it is essentially is that we are going to be having the band wrapped around our waist, and we're going to be having our partner holding the bar or holding the band behind us while going in a straight motion or for however distance that we choose. For this distance, for example, for myself, I'm going to be using what is about a 10-yard distance, and then after that 10-yard, I'm going to stop. Now, we're going to be repeating a full set of 10 yards would be 1 repetition. We're going to be doing 5 repetitions. We're going to be doing 3 sets. So as for the exercise, I'm going to be using the resistance band, and I'm going to be placing this band around my waist. Now, once it's around my waist, you want to make sure that it is in a comfortable position for yourself. Now, for your partner, what they would need to do is to grab onto the back of the band, and what they're going to do is they're going to start by pulling the band once you begin your takeoff motion. Now, from how we're going to begin, our first variation would be a standing sprint exercise. So for this, we're going to be starting with a slightly bent position to where our body is almost going to drop, essentially, with our front leg in a head position of your body and the back leg behind. Now, we're going to start by completing this exercise in a full motion. So I'm going to start by having my body in a ready position, and then I'm going to begin by just running and just completing this exercise while my partner is pulling me backwards. I'm going to be sprinting. I'm going to continually placing my foot as fast as I can ahead of me, and this is not only going to help with your agility, but it's also going to be helping with your speed, because someone's pulling back to you. You're going to want to get out of there as quick as possible, whether if you're like a football player, even a basketball player, to get on a fast break. This is one of the best exercises to complete. And I'm going to be moving on to our second variation of our exercises. For our second variation, what we're going to be doing is what is called a pronated sprint exercise. Now, for a pronated sprint exercise, it's more of a position to where you're starting from the ground. This is going to be a position that not many people can essentially tend to do, but is more capable when it comes to football players, especially when it comes to impact of the ground after maybe a missed tackle, or even trying to sack up the quarterback and he's still out in the open space. So this is going to be a little bit different than what we just did, which was the standing sprint exercise. So how we're going to start is, I am going to start on the ground. I'm going to be laying pronated on the ground, and for this exercise, it's all about how you get up and how you execute yourself after the get up. So to explain, I'll be having the resistance band around my waist, as I said, in a comfortable position around my hips. Now, since the band is there, I'm going to be passing the rest of the band to my partner, as they will be holding on to it. Now, for this exercise, what we're going to start off by doing is you're going to start off by being on the ground. Essentially, you're going to want to have your body all the way down here to where you're practically laying prone. As I'm going to lay prone, as I get up, imagine yourself doing a push-up and bringing your dominant foot ahead of you. So in this instance, my dominant foot would be my right foot. And after you push up and have your dominant foot in front of you, you're going to come back up and then begin the sprint. But you're not going to want to come back straight up. You're going to want to come back angled forward and then project yourself forward. So now, in a full example, I'm going to explain and I'm going to detail onto how I did this exercise in a full, proper motion. So, as I said, I'm going to be pronated on the ground. Come push up, and my leg is going to come up in front of me like this. I'm going to come push myself forward, and I'm going to sprint this way as my partner is pulling me backwards. I'm sprinting and continuing to pull myself forward. You're going to sprint for the 10 yards that you're going to be doing, and that would complete 5 sets. You're going to be doing 3 full sets with 5 repetitions. We're going to be moving on to our third variation, our final variation of these sprint exercises. What we are going to be doing is a running stance position. Now, for a running stance position, many track runners, even football players who start off in a starting position, some people who are starting off even in just a ready bench position can definitely get you going for this exercise to explode yourself to whatever area, and also help in your speed to get off from your starting to the area you're trying to get to. Now for this exercise, as I said, we're going to be using a resistance band. Please use a long resistance band. You're not trying to use a resistance band that's kind of short, because after your legs come backwards, you might potentially hurt your partner. So, as said, you are going to need a partner, someone to help you with this exercise. Place the resistance band around your waist, having it in a comfortable position around your waist, giving the rest of the band to your partner. Now, in the running stance position, we're going to start off with your legs, with your dominant leg behind you. So start off with your non-dominant foot to be the one that is ahead, and the other foot, which is your dominant foot, to be behind. Now, with your hands, you're going to want to have them both parallel with each other, having them come downwards and almost essentially slightly in front of the opposing foot that you're using. So, for example, I'm using my left leg and my left foot, placing my hands essentially right here and bringing my body to where my knee of my dominant right leg is above the ground. So it is above here, and I'm in a ready position. So once your partner or whoever, maybe a coach or even a trainer, say go, you're going to want to explode from this starting position. So exploding is you're going to want to essentially push yourself forward with your right leg. So by coming here, having yourself ready, and they say go, you're going to want to push forward and bring that dominant leg in front of you. So in a full example, you're going to want to come here, come ready, and explode, and come forward. You're going to want to come for 10 yards. And after those 10 yards, you're going to want to stop, and that would be 1 repetition. Repeat this for 3 sets, and then we're done with all of our sprints exercises. So moving on to our agility ladders exercises, this is going to be a exercise that is called crossovers. Now crossovers are a great exercise to definitely get that bounce in your step when it comes to changing in direction. That is all what agility is about, is quick change in direction. So we're going to be using these yard lines to encompass a ladder. Now, imagine the end lines of the yard markers as the end points of the ladder. So what we're going to be doing is with your dominant foot, we're going to want to start here. We're going to want to be ready in our knees in a bent position. So we're going to want to begin by having our dominant foot come forward inside of the agility ladder box. So it's going to be inside the box. You're going to want to bring your opposing foot outside the box in a almost bent position, but it's also in a little bit further than shoulder width apart position. So there's going to be dominant foot inside, opposing foot outside. Then you're going to want to bring that opposing foot back inside and bring your dominant foot outside. And then after this, you're going to want to bring back your dominant foot and repeat this. And you're going to want to do this as fast as possible. If this is your first time completing this exercise, you can start off slow. You can start off by maybe taking it a little step by step, like in, out, back in, back out, in, out, back in, back out. Now, we'll try doing this exercise a little bit quicker. So, in, out, and completing it like that. You're going to want to do this for a full 10 yards, and then that would complete 1 set. So you would start at the yard line, and then right here, and start by doing however many to the 10 yards ahead of you. You're going to do this for 3 sets, and 1 completion of the 10 yards is 1 completion of the 10 yards is 1 repetition, and we're going to be doing 5 full repetitions. So 3 sets with 5 repetitions in each one. And then we're going to be moving on to our next exercise. So for our second variation, we're going to be doing alternating crossovers. Now, what is an alternating crossover? Well, after the first variation, we understood what a basic crossover is. And a basic crossover was just an understanding of coming in and back out and completing that. But to make this alternating, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to come in and bring this foot, your dominant foot, and bring it inwards. And come with your other foot and bring it outward. Now bring the opposing foot back in and bring your other foot back out, which it would be your dominant foot, and bring that dominant foot back in. And then, because you stay here, it makes it alternating, so that way you're using the same position in the same one, and then you're staying back where you initially started, and then you're going to do the same thing, so you're going to come back, and then you're going to stay here. Because instead of coming back here like as in the first variation, you come in, back out, and here, and you come forward to begin forward as a bilateral. Instead, you'd be doing an alternating, so you'd be coming out, and you come here, and then you're restarting here and back. So this will complete the alternating, and we're going to be doing this for 10 yards. For each of the 10 yards you complete, that would be 1 repetition. So we're going to be doing 3 sets, we're going to be doing 5 repetitions, and then we're going to be moving on to our final variation. For our final variation of our agility ladder exercise, when it comes to crossovers, what we're going to be doing is what is called a single leg crossover. So for a single leg crossover, what we're going to be doing is we're going to essentially complete the same sort of process as we did for the first couple of variations, which would be the bilateral crossover and the alternating leg crossover. But for this one, it's a little bit different. So you would start off by coming here, and with your dominant foot, you're going to be coming by jumping on to the box with your dominant foot on the inside. And you're going to want to come back out. Fine. Instead of coming out with that dominant foot and leaving it outside, you're going to want to come with your dominant foot here, and you're going to want to replace it with your outer foot landing on the outside of the ladder. So as shown, dominant foot inside, alternating foot outside, dominant foot back inside, and then stay here. And repeat again. Foot inside, foot outside, back inside, and back inside. We're going to be doing this for 10 yards. Every yard is represented as 1 repetition. So the 10 yards would be 1 repetition. We're going to be doing this for 3 full sets. And remember, do this for each leg. So start off with the right foot here. And then after you complete the 10 yards, come back and do with your left foot. And do the same process like that. And that will complete this variation. And moving on to our next exercise. Moving on with our agility ladder exercises, what we're going to be moving on to is what is called an in and out drill. So what an in and out drill is essentially using the agility ladders in this exercise and moving both of your feet in the same area and then quickly moving them back out of the ladder as quickly as possible. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using these yard lines kind of as an example in how to properly execute this exercise. So when doing this exercise, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to have our upper body in a slight angle and have our knees in a bend and have our hips and our feet in line with the upper body in a slight tilt forward in that direction. Now, in this specific exercise, instead of being vertically in line with the agility ladders, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be horizontally aligned. And we're going to be starting at the initial first yard marker. So with this initial yard marker, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be essentially doing the exercise by inserting our dominant foot, or which would be our initial starting foot, inside of the box, and then inserting our secondary foot inside the box as well, and then moving both of them out at the same time. This is what is considered a bilateral in and out drill. So essentially, in a rapid more motion, we would be doing both feet in, both feet out, and shuffling over, both feet in and both feet out of the agility ladder in itself. And that would complete this exercise. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing 3 different sets, and we're going to be doing up to 10 yards, and that would be a total of 10 repetitions. So in this second variation of agility ladder exercise, what we're going to be doing is essentially different from the first exercise. This variation is what is considered an alternate in and out drill. So the first one, we were essentially inserting both of our feet inside of the box of the agility ladder. But in the second one, what we're going to be doing is something that's a little bit different. We're going to be inserting one foot and then rapidly replacing it with the opposing foot as quick as possible. So to give a brief example of this exercise, we're going to be doing this specific exercise for 2 sets and for 10 repetitions. So now when doing this exercise, what we're going to be doing is essentially having our feet horizontally aligned at the same time as we did in the first variation, but instead, as we're going to start in the same way that we did in the first variation, with our outer foot on the line and then our leading foot around the midline of the box with a slight bend, and the hips and the feet aligned with each other with a slight bend of our upper body. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be having our starting foot go inside the box and then moving our outer foot, keeping it behind the line on the horizontal line of the agility ladder. And then because this foot is on the outer line, we're going to rapidly jump and we're going to switch our feet alignment and have this be what is considered an alternate in and out drill to have the quick, rapid reflex of the different techniques of our foot placement. So as said, we're going to be starting here, we're going to be coming in with our initial foot, our back foot, and switch, and come back out, and then repeat that motion again. Come back out, and in, release, and come back out like that, and then we're going to repeat this process over again, as said, for 2 sets, 10 full repetitions. So regarding our final variation of our agility ladder exercises, what we're going to be doing is, in our first variation we did a bilateral, in our second variation we did alternate. Now in this one we're going to be isolating the leg and we're going to be doing a single leg in and out drill. So in this single leg in and out drill, essentially what we're going to be doing, instead of having both our feet being in the same motion, we're going to be having only one of our legs being the one that's going in and out of the box in general. So we're going to start off by using, as said before, the yard lines as our imitation of our agility ladders. So in this exercise, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be having our initial foot being here in the midline of the box, and then having our outer foot being the foot that we're going to be starting off with. We're going to be doing this exercise for 2 sets. We're going to be doing a total of 10 repetitions. So now, how will we be doing this exercise in general? So to have this exercise started, having our alignment is what is most important. So having our hips and our feet in line is one of our key elements in executing this exercise properly. Having our upper body being a slight bend over is also what helps us to keep a firm balance when keeping this exercise going and flowing in a proper and quick motion. So now, to have our foot that is not in the midline of the ladder box in general, we're going to have that foot be our isolation foot. So we're going to be lifting our opposing foot to keep the balance. And we're going to jump outwards towards the horizontal line of the box with that one foot in general. Now, while keeping your balance, you're going to be going inside the box, and you're going to be going back behind the line. And then you're going to be shuffling back this way, and then isolating that foot again, and going in and out as quick as possible, having that explosive sort of movement from off of the initial reaction once you lift that opposing foot and isolating that one foot. As said, 2 sets, 10 repetitions, and then we're going to be moving on to our next different modality. We're going to be moving on to a different modality. This modality in itself is referring to quickness reaction drills, and in this modality we're going to be using a tennis ball. So for our first exercise, we're going to be doing more of a understanding of the mind when it comes to using a tennis ball in general. So what you would do is you would have a coach essentially on one side of the playing field, and you'd be on the opposing side. You'd want to be maybe around a 5-yard distance from each other. And in this situation, what you would want to do is, as the athlete, you're going to want to stand in a balanced position. Now, this is our first variation, is the balanced tennis ball drop. So to be in a balanced position as an athlete, what you would want to do is you want to have your hips and your feet all aligned together, and you'd want to slightly bend your upper body while keeping that alignment with your hip and your feet. Now, that would begin as the balance position. Now, what would be the tennis ball drop? The tennis ball drop would be the coach, which is at the 5-yard mark of where you're standing. He would be holding essentially the ball in his hand or in the center of himself, and he would dictate by the time that you're already ready and balanced to drop the ball at whatever side of his body he decides to drop it on. So by the time the ball releases from his hand, the athlete would essentially need to be running towards that area. So in a balanced position of this exercise, what you would want to do is you'd want to be, as said, with your knees in a slight bend, having that alignment with your hips and feet with a slight bend over of your upper body. You don't want to start off here like this in a ready pounce position. Now, once the coach drops the ball, for example here, the athlete would want to essentially come down and release themselves as quick as possible to whatever area that the coach is saying that you need to go. So for example, I'm going to give a quick brief demonstration, and then we would essentially just move on to our next variation. Now, I will be giving a viewpoint of how the athlete would be in this specific exercise. Now, as said, the athlete is going to be in a balanced position, and now the coach would essentially have the ball in their center, and then they would drop it in a specific area. So having your feet both in line with each other and in that balanced, ready to pounce position, as some people would like to call it, once the coach essentially drops that ball, you need to take off. So having that takeoff is what's most important. So being here, ready, your hands here by your hips on your side, and as the ball drops, you would take off essentially with the foot in the direction of where the ball is being dropped. So essentially, if the ball is being dropped from my left side, which would be the coach's right side, my initial takeoff foot would be my left foot. Why? Because I'm heading in the left direction first. So essentially, ready is 3, 2, 1, and take off. My left foot is immediately the one that impacts the ground first, and then taking off right after. Now, in the perspective of the coach, what we would want to do is we want to have the ball essentially in our center of our body to not lead the athlete to understand where we're going to be having the ball going initially. We want the athlete to have the quickest reaction that they can to this ball. So as a coach, we do not want to give them a, okay, ready, 3, 2, 1. No, we want to give them a little bit of a surprise, because in a game, it really doesn't matter to the other opposing team whether if everybody is ready or on time. So we want the athlete to be as quick as possible. So having the ball here in our center, and then understanding, okay, the athlete's ready, we can then make it upon ourselves to understand that we can drop the ball at our own take and do things how we want to do it. So having the ball here and understanding that our athlete's ready, we go, okay, ready to go, and have the ball drop. Once that ball is dropped, and then we can have the athlete book it and have the ball picked up by the athlete, and once he has the ball, just give it back to the coach and then restart that process. So we'd be doing this exercise for 3 repetitions. We're gonna be doing 10 different repetitions of this exercise, 10 on the right side, 10 on the left side, and it's gonna be a total of 2 sets. Okay, now for our second variation, we're gonna be talking about an unbalanced tennis ball drop with our quickness reaction drills. Now, for a unbalanced position, as an athlete, sometimes we don't really understand where the opposing player is gonna go in certain situations. So, to have a better quickness when it comes to changing direction of, oh, I need to go to this opposing direction as fast as possible, even though I'm not properly ready, doing it in different situations is always the best scenario. So, what is an unbalanced position? Well, in this situation, what we're gonna do is we're gonna have our athlete kind of stand in a position to where they have their lower part of their body on their right side or on their left side, whichever side is their dominant position. We're gonna have them stand with all their power on their dominant leg backwards. So having that alignment with your shoulders, your hips and your feet all on that one leg, and then keeping that opposing leg almost like it's lifted off the ground. You can imagine yourself almost like you're gonna throw a ball. You're having that power back here and you're gonna throw it. Essentially the position is the same way. We're gonna have the athlete in this kind of powered position backwards, so that way they're balanced or unbalanced. And then the coach will then essentially do the same thing as the first variation, is they'd have their ready position and then just drop the ball as quick as possible. The athlete's focusing on when the coach is going to drop the ball, and in that unbalanced position, they're going to take off as quick as possible towards that ball. So, as said, athlete, once you're in this position, you're going to be backwards, and you're going to be kind of with your alignment of your shoulders, your hips, and your feet backwards like this. And then once you see that ball drop out of the coach's hand, you're going to immediately take off towards that direction with the foot of the direction that you're going to go towards, being that starting foot. As the coach has said, just drop it, and then once the athlete retrieves the ball, he gives it back to you, goes back into his position, and restarts the whole process. We're going to be doing 2 sets for 10 repetitions. So for our final exercise for the quickness reaction drills with the tennis ball drops, this is going to be a double tennis ball balance reaction drill. Now, how would this be different from the first one, which is just a normal balance drill? Well, the first one entailed that essentially when the ball was dropped, the athlete immediately had to just give the ball back to the coach and just casually walk back. No, in this exercise, what we are going to do is something that's a little bit different. The athlete is going to begin by standing in their balanced position with their hips and their feet in line with a slight bend in their upper body. Here is a side view of this position within itself. A slight bend with your heels and your hips in line. So as said, understanding the position of the athlete with their body in alignment, what we're going to want to do as a coach is we're going to essentially have 2 tennis balls. Now with 2 tennis balls, what we're going to do is we're going to have the athlete in their position. And once we select what side we're going to begin with and drop the first ball, the athlete is going to retrieve that ball. So essentially, if the ball's in front of me, as shown, the ball's in front of me, I'm going to get the ball and I'm going to shuffle backwards to my starting point. So if your starting point was essentially right here and the ball is coming at an angle this way, and you're going to go and get the ball, you're going to grab the ball with that hand, and then you're going to backpedal towards your starting position. And when you backpedal toward your starting position, you're going to be back in your balanced position and prepare yourself for that second ball to be dropped. And then once that second ball is dropped, you're going to go as quickly as possible to get that second ball, and that would be the completion of that exercise. So as said, with the explanation of the exercise, we're going to be doing this specific exercise for 2 sets, 10 repetitions, and that would complete our exercise and the 3 variations for this specific exercise. Now for our final exercise, completing all the modalities, what we are going to do is what is called a command exercise. This definitely helps with quickness and reaction to understanding what voice or hand movement the coach says or does, to cause our brains to understand to go in that direction as quickly as possible. So we're going to start off in imagine yourself in a square box. You're going to start in the center of that box. And for our first variation, we're going to be doing hand and voice commands. Now, for hand and voice commands, you are going to need a coach or someone to assist you in this exercise. Now, as an athlete, we're going to stand here in a balanced position, ready for us to move in whatever direction. So we're going to have our knees in a slight bend, our hip and our feet in alignment with our upper body in a slight bend. Now, as this specific exercise, what we are going to want to do is our coach or our assistant in this situation, they're going to be having their hands lifted or whatever the coach says. And we are going to move in that direction. Now, if the coach says go left, you're going to shuffle to the left side. if the coach says go right, you're gonna shuffle to the right side. If the coach tells you go backwards, you're gonna backpedal towards the back. And if the coach says forward, you're gonna sprint forward. So it is whatever the coach tells you until it's said forward that you explode off of your initial takeoff. So, as said, I will be giving the voiceover of the coach. So it would essentially be go left, we're shuffling left, go right, you're gonna go shuffle right as quick as possible, go backwards, you're gonna backpedal backwards, and then forward, you're gonna take off, and you're gonna have that quick reaction takeoff speed, and you're gonna complete that exercise. And then you're gonna repeat going back to the center, and then you're gonna do another repetition. So for this exercise, you're doing 3 sets and you're doing 5 repetitions. For our second exercise, what we are gonna be doing is what is called a mirroring drill for quickness and reaction. Now, what's a mirroring drill? Well, in this exercise, it's a little bit different than the first variation. So the first variation, we're just going based off of hand movement and voice. In the second variation, we're going exactly where the coach is going. So whatever the coach is moving towards, we need to move with them and follow them, keeping them in our center. Now, in this example, as shown in the first one, we need to have that balanced stance. Now, in this situation, I'm gonna be having my camera person give an example of how to execute this exercise as the coach's perspective, while I explain the athlete's point of view when it comes to doing this exercise. So as said, we're gonna be in a balanced position, and then while the athlete is in a balanced position and the camera person is ready to move, what they would do essentially is we would move with them and keeping that alignment with them and staying in line with them the entire way. And then if they go backwards, you go backwards with them. And essentially at this backwards point where we stay, the coach would essentially say take off, and then you're gonna sprint towards the coach while the coach moves out the way, so you can take off from there. But that essentially would complete the mirroring command drill within itself. When it comes to completing the mirroring command exercise, we're going to be wanting to do this for 3 sets, and we're going to be doing 5 total repetitions with the athlete. Please be sure to have the athlete in line with you the entire way, and to have that center of gravity with the coach, and having that takeoff as explosive as possible to have a better completion of the exercise. For our final exercise, to complete all the modalities and all the different variations of this specific command exercise, what we are going to be doing is a single leg hand and vocal command exercise. So a single leg exercise is essentially having the balance on one leg at the start of the exercise. So the athlete would essentially begin on either the dominant leg or the non-dominant leg, whichever is preferred to by the athlete within itself. Just be sure to complete the exercise with your opposing leg as well. Now, as shown in this exercise, what I would essentially be doing is I would be on, for example, as shown, my left leg, and kind of having my left leg in a slight bend. I would have the coach be telling me left, right, backwards, take off. So to give an example of how to properly execute this exercise, what I would do is I would essentially have myself on my right leg in this scenario. Now, as a coach, I would say go left, and I would jump toward my left side and keeping my balance on my right foot. And he would say right, going backwards on my right foot and going to the right side. Now, if the coach says backwards, on that same right foot, you would go backwards, jumping backwards. And once he says take off, with that non-dominant leg or your opposing leg that is above the air, you're gonna have that be your first step, and then you're gonna take off. And that would essentially complete the full exercise of this specific variation, and that would complete all of our main exercises. And now we would be moving on to our cool down exercises to complete this entire program.
Now to complete this entire program, we're going to be ending it off with a cool down for our body. We're going to begin our cool down with every exercise that we're going to be selecting, which are a total of 5. They're all going to be for a duration of 1 full minute. Now for our first cool down exercise, what we're going to be doing is a straight arm behind the back. So we're going to have our hands both with our palms facing the ground, and we're going to have our fingers interlocked, and we're going to have our palms essentially be going towards the ground, and essentially you can say you're pushing towards the ground. You're going to have your chest up, your head up, and you're going to have an alignment of your body going all the way down from your shoulders to your hips to your heels, and then you're going to be bringing essentially your palms downwards and slightly back in this sort of position. You can also imagine it as a Superman position. So down and in this position for 1 full minute. Now, after completing that exercise, we're going to be moving on to our second exercise, which is a cross arm stretch. We're going to be doing a cross arm stretch for 1 full minute as well. For a cross arm stretch, what we want to do is we want to have our hand, and we're going to cross it across our body. We're going to bring our opposing hand up and towards our shoulder, and we're going to be pulling on our shoulder downwards, and we're going to be pulling on our arm in the opposing direction. And then we're going to be doing this for our other arm as well, pulling our shoulder downwards and bringing our arm out towards that direction. You can do 30 seconds on one arm and 30 seconds on the opposing arm to complete 1 full minute. Now, to continue these exercises, we're going to be moving on to another exercise that is called the supine spinal twist. Now, the supine spinal twist is we're going to be essentially laying on the ground, and we're going to be having our body being flat on the ground, and then we're going to bring our feet and we're going to bring those down to have a full body with the alignment of the floor. Now, bring your upper body upwards and bring your right foot and bring it over the left foot. We're going to be bring our upper body up, and we're going to twist. So what we're going to do is we're going to be facing forward, and we're going to be coming to the opposing direction, which would be the right foot, and we're going to be twisting this way of the right foot direction. So you want to be twisting in the opposing platform foot, and your opposing platform foot would be the foot that is overlapping the other leg. So you twist in this direction for 30 seconds, and then we're going to bring our left foot, and we're going to bring it over our right leg, and we're going to twist in this direction for another 30 seconds. So you're going to want to bring your hands both flat on the opposing ground and to help you twist in that direction. To move on to our fourth exercise, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be having a supine knee tuck. So we're going to be laying down fully. Now what we're going to do is we're going to bring our knees, and we're going to bring our knees to our chest, as far as possible to our chest for 1 full minute. So lay down as if you're going to complete a curl up or a sit up. Now bring our knee of one of our legs towards our chest, and you're going to want to bring both your feet and put it up upon the shin of your leg, and then bring your knee as far possible as you can to your chest, and then bring it back down, and the other leg come upwards to your chest for 1 full minute, and that would complete that exercise. And then to complete all of these exercises in general with the cool down exercises, what we're going to be doing is one final exercise. Now for this final exercise, what we're going to be doing is what is called a side reach with our upper body. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be having our standing position. We're going to be bringing our hands up, and we're going to be bringing one of our hands downwards, and we're going to reach all the way to one side, bending the arm fully upwards and reaching toward the opposing direction. We're going to bring that arm down, and we're going to bring our opposing arm, we're going to bring all the way to this direction, stretch, 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 bring it all the way down for 1 full minute, and that will complete all the cool down exercises. This will complete the entirety of the program of our strength and conditioning exercises. Thank you and have a great rest of the day.